Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Bongiorno. I'm not the executive director. I'm the president of the board. I have another board meeting later tonight with a different title. My name is Chris Bongiorno. I'm the board president for Yellow Springs Home, Inc. Emily Seibel is our executive director. Here at Home, Inc., we've been working on our mission to strengthen community and diversity in Yellow Springs and Miami Township by providing permanently affordable and sustainable housing through our community land trust. We've been at this for almost 25 years now, which is outstanding. And as you probably noticed over the last couple of years, we've been scaling up, working to build more housing as the scope and scale of the housing and affordability crisis in our nation has grown as well. We built 6 units, 6 homes on Dayton Street in the Forest Village Homes Project a few years back. And last year we opened 12 new homes in Glen Cottage's Pocket Neighborhood Development. What we're going to share with you this evening is the very exciting evolution of a project that some of you have been imagining for more than a decade. Some of you have been involved in it for maybe just a few months through some of our community learning listening sessions or a community survey. And whether you've been involved for that decade plus or just now getting to know the project, we thank you for your involvement. I also want to take a moment to thank Antioch College for hosting us this evening. To our partners at the Village of Yellow Springs for being one of the early investors in this project through some pre-development funds. Our partners at St. Mary Development, who have spent more than 3 years of time, money, and expertise helping to imagine what's possible on this site. And you'll hear from Tim Beat from St. Mary later in the program this evening. In just a moment, I'm going to pass the mic over to our executive director, Emily Seibel, who's going to take you through the program. But later on, we're going to hear from our project architect from City Architecture, who I'm very excited to bring to Yellow Springs. Tim Beat, I mentioned, and then we're going to open the floor up to questions from you and then have some more time to discuss. So again, thank you for coming this evening. I think you've already seen there's refreshments in the back, restrooms down the hall, and I believe there's a sign-in sheet going around as well. If you haven't signed in yet, please do. We'd like to make sure we keep in touch with you. What was that? And turn off your phones. Thank you for that reminder. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Emily Seibel.
Okay. So here we all are together. I'm Emily Seibel, Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home, Inc. And some of you in the room, I want you to raise your hand if you've been working on this project for 10 years.
How many years?
10. 10, Andre, Susan, huh?
Can we go for 20?
I'm getting there. I'm gonna say 20 years. Yeah, and I know a number of people in this room, even if you didn't raise your hand, have been working on this for a long time. So we are thrilled to be here with you today. Your community land trust, to be clear, is more than charity. We are mapping the future of Yellow Springs together. Lasting community control over one of our most precious resources, land, is critical to advancing housing democracy, equity, and inclusion in Yellow Springs. Your community land trust has been hard at work for nearly a quarter of a century, and I can't believe that we're turning 25 next year. I mean, isn't that wild? Some people here helped to start Home, Inc. So, I mean, it's really phenomenal, just incredible. We can rent a car together. So here's a little bit more about us. Next slide. Yeah, I'll just nod. So here's a snapshot of our accomplishments from 2021. There's lots of seating. Please come in, don't be shy. And I'm not going to talk about this. You can see it on your screen. If anyone has trouble reading what is on the screen and has a question, just raise your hand and we can read what's on there. We're also videotaping this, and it will be aired on our website. So you can log in and watch it at any point. Next slide, please. And here is an aerial view of the Glen Cottage's Pocket Neighborhood, which is the largest project that we've done so far. The community really supported this and made it possible, and it really shows what can be done on 1 acre of infill development. So in total, we have 26 forever affordable single-family homes serving families. We also have 14 rentals that are not restricted to seniors in our community land trust. We're not done developing single-family housing. I just want to be really clear about that. It's not a zero-sum game, but this senior-focused project responds to a really critical and major local need that's driven by residents and also the site itself. The need for senior housing in Yellow Springs is acute and has only risen over time. I think everybody in this room knows someone who's had to move away, and everybody also probably knows somebody who's struggling in place. There are not enough safe senior housing options in Yellow Springs, and that's been true for a long time, and it's getting more true and more acute as time goes on. A senior housing working group was established in 2012 with leadership from Suzanne Patterson, Andre Bognar, Helen Iyer, and Susan Stiles. And later the group expanded. But this independent grassroots group looked at every single site in the community and picked this one as the site for senior housing. This is infill development at its finest, and you can see from this map that it makes sense to put senior housing here. It's across the street from Friends Care Community, which also has the rehab facility, all kinds of support services. It's also right next to the Miami Township Fire Rescue, which provides emergency medical services, EMS, they have an ambulance, and then you can see it's just a couple of blocks from Antioch College and the Wellness Center, about a half a mile from downtown, and it's along the Green Cats accessible low-cost bus line. So we think this is a really great site for senior housing and the site for senior housing. And you can see this is part of the project history going back a decade. And I didn't put the efforts prior to Yellow Springs Homing getting involved, which were substantial and not insignificant. So this is something the community's wanted for a really long time, and I have to thank the board of Yellow Springs Homing under the leadership of Chris Bongiorno. I also want to thank the Senior Housing Working Group for really carrying the flame. You know, every project like this doesn't just happen on its own. The market's never going to make something like this happen. So the fact that you kept meeting despite a lot of setbacks and carried the vision for this project really inspired us. I promised you in 2012, I remember saying this, that I would be unflagging in my enthusiasm until there was senior affordable housing in Yellow Springs. And I remain committed to that promise, and thank you for sticking with us. So now is the time that this project is going to come to fruition. And it's really reimagined with community support. I think you can see on this slide, you know, we tried a few different times to do a big, large senior project, apartment building. It's clear that tax credit funding doesn't make sense for Yellow Springs right now. That could change, but right now it's not, and the need's not going away. So we pivoted and went back to the drawing board. Here is our project name. It is subject to change. Naming rights are available if there are any major donors in the room. But a couple of reasons we chose this. One is the Cascades at Glen Helen. We wanted to have a local connection. And also, it's something that is arranged or occurring in a series or succession where one piece leads to the next. And that's the story not only of a phased project, but it's also the story of the project, where one attempt led to the next. And each attempt we've made has taken something from the one before to make it better. And I think you're really going to like what we have to share today. This is just some of the public input that has informed our project choices over the years. These outreach events were designed to garner public input from the community and the areas of design, the site plan, the location of the site, what kinds of amenities there will be, the development itself, and even the management and some of the policies. So this is not an exhaustive list, but this is some of the community feedback that we got. And you can see a word cloud from 2018 that I found in our archives. I also wanted to talk just a little bit about the need. There is pent-up demand for this project. We recently looked at an Opportunity 360 Community Dashboard report through Enterprise Community Partners, and it's estimating that now more than half of renters in Yellow Springs and a quarter of homeowners are housing cost burdened. That means that you're paying too much in housing, it's not affordable, and you often have to make choices between necessities to make ends meet. We also lack housing for seniors, and specifically housing that is safe for aging in place, that reduces isolation through a sense of community, and that's affordable to seniors who are so often on fixed incomes and make much less now than they did earlier in their career. And there's also a much broader impact on our overall housing market by bringing a project like this online. This isn't just about senior housing. This is about expanded choice and increased housing mobility. Right now, we're lagging behind our neighboring communities in terms of housing choice, and that can have an impact on rents. We're squeezed. There aren't a lot of places to go, and that can have a real impact on pricing. And this is a quote from the Housing Needs Assessment. And then, as of today, there are over 275 households on our rental interest list at Yellow Springs Home Inc. waiting for an affordable rental to become available. And that's in addition to that, we have dozens of households in our Homebuyer Getting Ready program who work with Chris Hall, our program manager. And we get calls every week, multiple calls every week. I think we're really feeling how desperately needed this project is in the community right now. So we had a bunch of assumptions based on the last 3 attempts over the last decade about what people wanted, but we wanted to spot check them. So in June, we had 2 listening sessions as well as a community survey where altogether we engaged over 90 residents to learn about your preferences. And so here you can see the first thing we asked people was we showed the prior design, and we said, what do you like about it? And here are the top 5. Affordability being number 1, energy efficiency, outdoor gathering and green space, community-centered housing to reduce isolation, and serving as many seniors as possible. We also had write-in responses. Just a second, Chris. Location, close to downtown, and the obligatory nothing. We're trying to really keep it real with you, and we're going to share the full spectrum of public feedback. So then we asked what people didn't like about the last design. The building is too tall, preferred that we serve as wide a range of incomes as possible, and would prefer more of a cottage look, like the recent Glen Cottages Pocket neighborhood. And then this is one of my favorite written responses. I'm not going to read it, but you can read it.
I don't think many people can read that.
Who wants to volunteer?
It's very small. Oh, you want me to read that? Okay.
You can impersonate the author.
This is not my response. This is a piece of architectural schlock. It's an off-the-rack design that looks like an auto-centric assisted living center.
So we asked for feedback and people gave it to us, which we appreciate and take into consideration. And then we also got some comments like this. Any progress for seniors is good. Don't let the perfect kill the good. Just one second. And I'm not going to read all of these quotes, but we did also provide 3 potential design inspirations and ask people, what did you like about these would these be useful as inspiration for a new project? What's the reason? And there were a couple of outliers, including wanting the former building because it served more seniors. We also got at least one comment that was not wanting any buildings at all ever, period, because of the environmental impact. But overall, the responses were really positive across all three designs, but one design was the clear winner. And that was the bottom one. I think people really appreciated the classic look of the design, the front porches, and it looked more like a home than apartments or a large-scale building, and it fit in with the character of Yellow Springs. That's what we heard overall. And there was some concern expressed over the size of the buildings and then about accessibility, but overall it was very positive.
How many dwellings are within that building?
So Patty just asked how many dwellings are in that building, and I don't know.
Do you know how many were in that example? There's at least 4. I think it might have been a 4-plex, but it's hard to tell how deep it was.
4 to 8, let's say. So we also asked about some other stuff. And our architect's going to go into more detail, who's here with us tonight. And so in terms of community partnerships, Friends Care Center was at the top of everybody's list. We agree. People did want one-to-one parking so long as there were considerations for drop-off pickup, visitor parking, ADA accessible spots, and emergency vehicle access. In-unit amenities, no surprise here, but laundry was hands down number 1. Storage number 2, and something that comes up in every one of our listening sessions since I started with Home Inc., pet-friendly policies. People really want to be able to have pets, and we will allow pets. I can pledge to you. And then in terms of outdoor amenities, people wanted shaded outdoor sitting areas. That was the top choice. Porches were very celebrated across the different stakeholder groups, walking paths and gardens and native plantings. And at least one person, who I see here, suggested a sensory or therapeutic garden, which I think is a great idea. And then probably the biggest point of tension or where people had a variety of opinions was around accessibility. Every unit being fully wheelchair accessible versus some second-story units to serve as many people, seniors as possible. There were mixed opinions, but overall, I think people felt like as long as there were considerations for accessibility, such as staircases wide enough to accommodate a stair lift if needed, that some upstairs units were okay. And our original idea was to have about half up, half down, but based on the feedback that we got, we changed the design. So now 3/4 of the units are down and just a smaller handful up on the second floor. And our architect will go into more detail about that. And then the other trade-off, or the other thing that we really had a question about, was the for-sale homes. We wanted to include some for-sale homes in addition to rentals, and those units would be along Marshall Street, which is part of a residential corridor. And so the question is, should it be senior restricted or senior focused, meaning families could move in, it could be intergenerational, but with first floor universal design features. And the response we got pretty overwhelmingly was make it open so that it could be intergenerational. And then we asked about bedrooms, bathrooms, and we'll get into more of that. We also had a listening session with the neighbors in addition to several one-on-one meetings taking place over a series of years during past tax credit applications. I see Tim Beats here. He was in the living room, I think, for some of those. But we had one larger neighbor session. And this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some major themes. The one that came up a lot was that there are some woods in the middle, kind of on one side in the middle of the development where there are deer, and so if we could be very sensitive to that, and as a deer advocate, I will pledge that we will be as sensitive as possible to the wildlife. And then just mindful of traffic, mindful of construction disturbances, sound environmental design. Everyone likes porches. Again, the porches theme came up a lot. And then, of course, stormwater retention, which we're committed to working with civil engineering on, emergency vehicle access, a buffer to the extent possible, and guest parking. And then we just said, are there any additional comments? And I didn't put them all up here, but I picked out a few that I thought certainly caught our attention and are sort of illustrative of the range of public input that we got. So I'm not going to read them all here, but they are up on the slide. And this presentation, a PDF of it, will be on our website after this, as well as a recording if you want to look at these slides more. And so with that, I am very excited to welcome our architect to do the big reveal now that you've heard the public input summary. And Krista Pesarchik, did I say it right? Yes. Okay. Is with City Architects, which is our City Architecture, which is a phenomenal design firm out of Cleveland. She drove down today to present to you. And she and her team have just been very responsive. They are gold medal winners in terms of their work with the Architectural Institute of America. And they have core values that align with ours and a mission, I think, that really aligns with ours. So with that, to come and present.
Okay. Looks like the notes are in here, right? Cool. Well, thank you for welcoming me. I'm very happy to be here. I'm humbled that Home Inc. And Chris Bongiorno invited our firm to be a part of this project. You know, we are very strong advocates for the equity and inclusion and making sure the needs of every resident are met. And so this project, you know, is really important, and it has become important to me as I have been involved with it. And Emily has been a great champion and advocate for all of you, and so recognizing her for that as well. So with that, I would like to show. Okay. Thank you. You know, so Emily gave a great comprehensive summary of all of the community feedback that we have heard to date. And we have taken that, and part of our job was to translate that into design and solutions and something that is buildable. So taking all of that feedback and incorporating it into this project has been a part of what we've been working on all summer. Is it down?
I've just been doing this so you can see the notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. So, as was mentioned, you know, this site was selected to be this place for the senior housing, and being adjacent to Friends Care, just with that to the south. You know, we really thought that it was helpful to play off of that and make some strong connections. And so, and the location being on the CATS route is really important. That helps connect seniors, residents who don't have cars or who need to go a little bit farther than maybe walking or a bicycle will take them. And then, you know, being just moments away, a stone's throw from emergency services is also incredibly important. So, go ahead. We heard very resoundingly that the last design was too big. It did not fit in this context. And anybody who drives down the street, I think, could see that. I think that was, really easy to see, looking at the houses that are right next to this site, across the street. They're 1-story, 1.5, 2-story homes. And they're a mix of styles. So, that leaves it very open, but it was clear based on the feedback and, that this was not the direction to go. So we started to take a look at a different style, a different type. We know that the community likes color, so we wanted to make sure we incorporated some vibrancy. We took the scale down. These are duplexes and triplexes, which means that they have 2 units or 3 units in them. We made sure that all of the entrances are covered. And they're smaller buildings, which means you don't have that shared corridor. And that was something else we heard, especially in light of COVID and everything that's been going on. People didn't want to have that closed communal space where you were walking to and from your front door. So this is all, everybody has their own private entrance, but it is covered, it is protected from the elements. And one of the features, everybody loves front porches. I love a front porch. I sit on mine all of the time. And so we made sure that these also have front porches. And they look a lot more like single-family homes. They really fit, we feel, into the neighborhood a lot better. Touched on accessibility a little bit. We know that's very important for this population. So we have a series of ground floor units that will be fully accessible. They'll have, low thresholds. They'll have wide corridors that are easy to traverse if you're in a chair or using a walker or a cane, so that you kind of have that unobstructed path throughout the unit. It's all on 1 story. Big enough bathrooms, space to maneuver around. I know not everybody understands how to read a floor plan, but it's a much more open space. We have, an open kitchen that you can go on both sides, a little bit of an Eden's countertop, nice open living room. There'll be nice big windows to let in some daylight. And as I mentioned, bathrooms, bedroom. There's a mix of 1-bedroom units and 2-bedroom units. And laundry. Side by side, big enough closet that you can reach and access in your unit.
We have boards at the end, right?
Mhm.
So people that want to come up and look and ask specific questions, we can do that at boards at the end.
Chris is changing slides.
Yeah. And so this is just another, this is showing a kind of how the first floor of a building looks like. So this has 2 units side by side. You can kind of see they fit together like puzzle pieces. But then what that does is that kind of creates some interest in the shape of the building and the architecture on the outside, so that it's not just one big flat box. There's some pushing and pulling, there's some recesses, there'll be bays and things, so they'll look really cute. And then another thing that we thought was important is that even though not every unit will be fully, fair housing accessible, ADA with the wheelchair access and everything like that, there's another program, another concept that's called universal design. And what that means is that it looks at accessibility from a holistic point of view, not just focusing on mobility, not just focusing on people with issues with movement and using wheelchairs and that. This also focuses on Maybe some more visual impairments or some reaching or grabbing, but maybe you're still very otherwise mobile. So things like having a contrast between your stair risers and your stair treads, so they're easier to pick out the change in the surface. Same with countertops to cabinets. Picking doorknobs that are a lever style, so they're easier to grasp rather than a round doorknob. Just small features that can make a big impact. And the other thing is, even with a 2-story unit, I mean, if you look at different programs and different funding sources, they define senior differently. Some are as young as 55, and it's like, well, we know plenty of 55-year-olds who are perfectly happy to go up and down the stairs. They just don't maybe need a big house. So this is kind of reaching the entire range of potential residents here.
What's the square footage of that one?
I think that we're around 850 square feet.
And that's a 2-bedroom.
That's a 2-bedroom, yeah. And here's just kind of a building plan, again, just showing how the units, there's 3 units shown here, 2 on the ground floor, 1 above on the 2nd floor, and kind of how those will fit together to form the full building. And just a reminder, these ones are the rental units, and there's also going to be the for sale units. I don't think we have any of those shown as part of this presentation, but I'll point them out on the site plan when we get there. But so the rental units here are more focused, are designed for seniors, and then the townhomes will be more of a senior focused, but they're a little bit more open. The for sale ones, maybe an intergenerational family, maybe if there's grandparents helping to raise grandkids, and so there's different ages in the household, a little bit maybe more open to families. But those ones will also have like a ground floor owner suite, like the primary bedroom and bathroom will be on the ground floor, so that if the owner is living there, they don't have to go upstairs to go to the bedroom, but there still is another bedroom upstairs. So with that, we'll take a look at the site. So we have, this is the full vision for what this development will lay out to be. It's going to happen in phases. It can't happen overnight. It can't happen all at once, but it will happen. So this shows that there will be 8 buildings that are closer to Friends Care, kind of on the bottom of the site here. And these ones will be the rental units, and you can see that they are clustered around like a central green space. The for sale units, there will be 10 of them up here, and they're a mix, they're 2-story units, and they're a mix of 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom. And they're all kind of one site, one cohesive community. And something you'll notice is that we were very intentional with creating pathways, so that you can get out and know your neighbors and walk the neighborhood and feel comfortable and have some place to go. The pathways, we're looking to work with the village to get a crosswalk right over to the Friends Care campus, so that if you're getting services from there, you can just walk across the street. You can continue on their sidewalk loop and just keep walking around, or as you want. And then, we didn't want to keep them all straight and boring. There's some meandering. They'll weave in and out of trees and gardens. Some of the suggestions about having native plants, pollinator gardens, sensory gardens, all of that will be designed as the project progresses. So there's just some loose indications of how those might lay out and where the paths are going to kind of walk through those. Underneath some of the shade trees, there will be seating areas, benches, places to rest, places to just enjoy the view, enjoy the sun. And one thing that is worth noting is this is roughly the area where the existing kind of grove of trees are. And once we kind of progress into the next stages of development, we get a survey and kind of a better understanding of what trees are there, how healthy they are, kind of where exactly they are. This is just kind of a best guess from some images. We'll have a better sense of how much of that we can actually preserve, so we can keep the deer. And this is just the purple lines indicate kind of where the phases will break down. So, you know, we'll start in the bottom left, and these ones will happen first. And then kind of as funding is available and as those first ones run out, the next wave will happen. We'll have phase 2, 3, the townhomes will fit in there at some point as well. Just as far as the ratios go, the rentals are, there's about 75% of them are 1-bedroom units and 25% of them are 2-bedroom units. The for sale townhomes are split about 50-50 with 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom unit types. And here we are. This is what those lines, those flat plans will hopefully look like. This is the vision. So the clusters of the rental units, you can see those in the foreground, how they face each other, they face outwards, they look like nice homes that really fit into this neighborhood, and how the site really kind of functions from a layout with the sidewalks weaving in between them, connecting you through so that the rental and the for sale are one community. This is from the other side, from the north, looking south. You can see Friends Care in the background on the top right, and just kind of how the massing of the for sale, the townhomes will look in line, and you can notice that like the roof heights, the pitched roofs, they're all kind of in keeping with the rest of the context here. And here is a rendering of what it might feel and look like from within that green space, that central gathering area. You can see you could take a walk, take a stroll through the garden, take a break on the bench under the tree, meet with your neighbors, come out and say hi as they go to carry their groceries in. And then here's from the sidewalk what it'll look like to passersby. Just really quaint and cozy, but also very functional. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you. I think you can see that a lot of thought was put into the design, and I hope that you find it appealing, and especially in contrast to the last design that we had. And before I introduce our final speaker, I have to thank the Village of Yellow Springs for being early in to support this project. They provided funds in this fiscal year to be able to work with a high-quality architectural firm and create a blueprint for the site that really matches the neighborhood and reflects the community values. And we really couldn't have done that without the support of the village, so I just want to thank the village. And also, I know we have a couple of elected officials here with us tonight. But we really are delighted to consider the village as an essential partner to develop affordable housing in Yellow Springs. And so with that, I am now delighted to introduce Tim Beat, who is the president of St. Mary Development Corporation. We've partnered, as you know, on 2 low-income housing tax credit applications. Tim serves on our projects advisory and asset management group. He has a wealth of information, an industry expert, there's no question. And we're very, very appreciative of the opportunity to learn from Tim. I feel like I've learned a lot from you. And also, he is affiliated with St. Mary Connect, which is a partner to us. Typically, they provide support service coordination for St. Mary projects, but they have a partnership to also provide them to renters through Yellow Springs Home Inc. And they're connected to over 100 different service providers, so it's pretty wrapped around and comprehensive. So would you like to come up, Tim? Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. So St. Mary Development has been involved in this project in one way or another for quite a few years now. We were involved when we applied 3 times or twice and then couldn't apply a 3rd time for the tax credit project in that larger building that was there. I thought this was one of the best sites that I had ever seen because of the walkability. Unfortunately, the tax credit program was super competitive and the state disagreed. They did not like the site and preferred others, which really disappointed with us. It's rare that you find a site where it has nursing home next door, that you can walk to a grocery store that has a senior center down the street. It's just very rare to find such a good site like that. It's typical for these type of projects to take a long time, as Emily has shared. Rarely do you do it or able to pull it off on the first try. We've created at St. Mary's 70 affordable housing projects in 10 states and about we just went over $500 million in real estate development investment for those. So we have probably looked at more than 1,000 sites in our lifetime, and this is truly one of the best sites that I have seen, and was the reason we were so disappointed we weren't able to do a tax credit project here. But I share that we've had that experience and seen 1,000 sites because in small towns, affordable senior housing is even more important than in larger cities. And the reason is you have people, and you know this, that they grew up there, you spent your lives here, and it's heartbreaking to see somebody have to move out of the town that they love and the people that love them because they can't afford the housing anymore. It's much more devastating than in, I think, even in larger towns. People often ask me, well, who moves into these type of projects, especially in small towns? Who would a typical tenant be? And there are really 3 categories that we see. There are either people who live here now, there are people that lived here once and want to move back, or there are people who are moving here because of somebody else. They have a child here. There's a friend here. Rarely do we ever see people that move into projects in smaller towns like this that don't have a very strong, loving connection with the community owner. And that's why these projects like this are so important. One of the things that is interesting about this is that I know there's a lot of talk about we need more family housing too. One of the things I think you'll see is that because people are going to move in from Yellow Springs, it will actually open up other housing. The people that move in and out of the housing that they're in now, so not only do you get new senior housing with this project, but you're going to open up some family housing. So that it's unusual when that can happen, but when there's so few houses out there, you're going to be able to provide some housing for young family, kind of just as a bonus for this. One of the other things that you'll see is that as people get older, it often is a strain on emergency services and taxpayers. And you're going to see as people move into this, because of the partnership with St. Mary Connect and Yellow Springs Home Inc. and all the work that they do, that people will be able to live longer independently, and which is good for them. It's what everybody wants to do. And at the same time, there will be less of a strain on community services. Oftentimes when people live alone and they have to call the EMTs or the fire department, they fall, there's weekly incidents that they have, and that goes down when you can live in the community and service providers can come in and see not just one resident but several residents. And the biggest thing is when residents can look out for each other. We see a lot of that. So people are knocking on each other's doors. Are you okay? I'm going down to the grocery store. Can I get you anything? That's just, it's so important. it was interesting, I went back and looked at the housing needs assessment that was done in 2018, just to see, because I knew that the demand has been around for 10 years, for 20 years or more. And I took a look at it, and it projected that between 2017 and 2022, among the households aged 65 to 74, there was going to be an increase of 56 households, or 16%. And then in the 75 and older, it would increase by 37 households, or 14% by 2022. And guess what? It's 2022. And that was just that long ago. So that's 93 more households since then. So the need for this is just huge. I mean, it's too bad that we can't be building 100 units like this, because I think they would fill up. We have one affordable project that we're still in construction of. There's 50 units. We have 500 people on the wait list who are interested in it because there's such a big need for it. As I said, we work with a lot of different communities, but in Ohio and in other states too on projects like this. And you might think that most cities have an organization like Yellow Springs Homing. And I just want to share with you how rare it is to have a community development corporation in any town, let alone a town the size of Yellow Springs. I've never seen it anyplace else. In Greene County, Xenia doesn't have an organization like Yellow Springs Home. Beaver Creek doesn't. You tend to be, in Dayton and in other areas, in bigger areas, but it's so unusual, which is why projects like this don't get done. If it wasn't their tenacity in pushing this forward and saying, if it takes a decade, it takes a decade. It's just so, what a blessing it is to your community that you have an organization to do that, because it just doesn't happen very often. And when we couldn't get the tax credits, they didn't give up. We couldn't get the 50 units, but Emily said, well, then we'll go for a smaller project, and you were able to do it. And I just want to say, congratulations on that. That is a huge, huge accomplishment. And then just one last thing. One of the comments that we saw when Emily gave her presentation was not letting the perfect get in the way of the good. And as a community, you should be proud of that. I have not seen a community that had so much input from people, great ideas, different expertise to come in to look at it. And you were able to take that, make compromises when you had to, and come up with something that wasn't perfect, because the way the government funding works on these, you can't do what's perfect. There's so many strings attached. But to come up with something that's truly exceptional with a limited site size and resources that you have. And I don't see a lot of communities talk about it and really give input and even show up at a meeting like this. We hold some meetings like this and nobody shows up. Nobody in the community really cares. So you just have so much to be proud of. I look forward to the day when we can come for the grand opening of this project.
When we are very fortunate to have someone with the expertise of Tim joining us every month to help advise on projects. And I mean, he's really a phenomenal resource. Thank you. So in addition to St. Mary Connect, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the support services partnerships that are already in place for this project. We're going to have more too, but this is an initial list, and these are signed MOUs, agreements that are in place right now that are serving our existing rental portfolio and will also be serving this project. So what is next? The very first phase of this will be 8 units. That's going to be 2 triplexes and 1 duplex. So 6 units downstairs, 2 units upstairs, and then a mix of 6 one-bedrooms and 2 two-bedrooms. And I think the first phase of the project, I can show you right here, is it's just this part of this side. So we'll start there. And that's on approximately 4 parcels. So because we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, in terms of volatile construction costs, having to fundraise a whole bunch of money from God knows where. I'm just kidding. We have a plan. But, you know, construction costs through the roof. I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's so many things that are challenging, and most of them come down to money. But I can say that right now, our best guess is that the total development cost will be $1,938,755 for the first 8 units. We plan to construct this in 4 phases, combining phases as is feasible, given the funding landscape. Right now, this is what we can do. And so I do want to say that we are delighted to already have construction financing and permanent financing committed to for phase 1. And that is because Wright Pat Credit Union took a risk to work with us. And they have never, one of the largest credit unions in the country, they've never worked on a federal home loan bank affordable housing project before, and they said, let's be partners and let's do this. And Donna Hale from Wright Pat is here, if you want to wave, Donna. So Donna used to work at the Yellow Springs Credit Union and also has very close ties with Friends Care community, and she really went the extra mile to push this through. So we're delighted to work with you. So far, we have $385,500 committed in funding from the Village of Yellow Springs, the Finance Fund, and the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, as well as an agreement for donated land for the first phase. And we have 2 more big sources and then a bunch of little sources to get. The little sources are always the hardest. That's like after the big money comes in, there's, you know, you might need another 200,000. Well, where does that come from? So that's something, we call it the funding stack. So we're piecing it together. The next big chunk that we have applied for is through the Federal Home Loan Bank Affordable Housing Program. That is more competitive than ever this year with less money than ever to give out, which seems to be the trend of things. And so we applied for $400,000 through them, and I believe the results are posted tomorrow, but I called them today, and I'm very happy to announce that we got funded. So that is really, like, we're pretty excited about that.
Secret. I didn't know this.
Yeah. Well, I thought I shouldn't tell you that I was going to call, because what if it was bad news? Then I'd have to sit on it, and I didn't want to, you know, but no, we're really, and that really speaks to not only our partnership with Donna and Wright Pat Credit Union, but it also speaks to the support of the Morgan Family Foundation. It speaks to the support of the staff that we have here at Home Inc., who are awesome. I mean, we're competing against, you know, the big for-profit multi-state tax credit organizations for these funds that are extremely limited. So it's a big deal, and it's because we have long-term staff that have been committed to Home Inc. And have worked on a number of these projects, and I think their experience shows. And we're very fortunate to have gems, true gems in our midst.
And thanks to Emily Seibel.
But you know, I think this is an easy project to be committed to for over a decade, because it really is going to make such a big difference. So the next stop, now that we have close to $800,000 committed for phase 1, is to go in next year for Ohio Housing Finance Agency gap funds. We think that'll take the biggest chunk, and right now we're fundraising for just under $200,000. And that, of course, as I said, is the hardest money to get. So we welcome ideas. We're also working with area foundations, but we're very confident that this is moving forward. And not in several years, but it's moving forward within the next year. is our goal. Of course, things outside of our control, but in my experience, once the Federal Home Loan Bank is in, it is happening. The momentum is there. So thank you for sticking with us. And I just have a couple of extra prompts. We have an FAQ sheet for those of you who are interested in questions like, what are the AMI cutoffs? If I have assets, what does that mean? Questions that we've gotten over the years from people interested in our rentals. We also have a feedback card, and it's just for open-ended feedback. You know, are we headed in the right direction? What questions you have, what ideas? And then we have some sign-up lists. So that's if you're interested in potentially living here or you know someone who is, we have sign-up sheets for that. We also have sign-up sheets for just continuing to learn about the project, staying on the radar, because we will have asks for additional support, whether that be writing a letter, showing up at a meeting, participating in some way in a campaign, volunteering. So it's really going to take a community effort to keep this going, and we're asking you for your support. And we also are asking you to become a member if you're not. There is sign-up information outside, but you know, to keep the momentum going, we really count on our members, donors, the community, and so we ask that you join us and be part of this. And that's it. Thank you. Please stick around.